Hello and welcome. Our top focus remains on the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. As fighting rages on with the rebels in the country's east, the DRC has an offer for peace. It wants the United States and the European Union to access its key minerals directly in exchange for an intervention to end the conflict. The DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi reportedly wants the US and the EU to buy a stake in his country's vast mineral wealth, a sector that is currently dominated by China. President Tshisekedi specifically wants the US to go ahead and buy a stake in the DRC's mineral wealth. Currently, American companies source strategic raw materials from Rwanda, which the DRC says are looted and smuggled by the M23 rebels. Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo has vast mineral resources. It is considered to be among the world's wealthiest countries in terms of natural resources. It provides much of the world's coltan, which is used to power smartphones and computers. It also holds more than half of the world's cobalt reserves used in electric vehicles. However, despite this mineral wealth, the DRC has not been able to benefit. Most of the minerals are located in its eastern region, particularly the North Kivu and South Kivu provinces. This area is the epicenter of a long-running deadly conflict that has been reignited. Ethnic Tutsi-led M23 rebels have resumed fighting, which has killed around 7,000 people in over a month. The rebels have seized two main cities in the east in the latest clashes. Neighboring Rwanda is accused of backing these rebels. Even though the root of the conflict is an ethnic dispute, the DRC says it is now a battle for minerals, as it accuses Kigali of looting them. Rwanda is also one of the world's top suppliers of coltan, but the DRC says much of Rwanda's export surplus comes from the loot. A UN report reveals that at least 150 tons of coltan were fraudulently exported to Rwanda and mixed with Rwandan production. Rwanda has also negotiated a deal with the European Union to give it about $935 million in return for access to rare earth minerals. However, the EU is reconsidering this deal over Rwanda's alleged support to the M23. The US has also imposed sanctions on a Rwandan military officer and former Minister of Defense over the conflict. The DRC's president says the Trump administration has shown interest in a deal that could ensure a stream of strategic minerals directly from the Congo. Currently, China has far greater access to Congo's mineral wealth, but US President Donald Trump is in a mineral race with Beijing. Trump has pushed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to enter a mineral deal with the US as a way to compensate for the wartime aid by Washington to Kiev. Tshisekedi has said that his country's conflict is no different than that of Ukraine's, and the United States must get involved in it. As per reports, Kinshasa has hired a US lobbyist on a one-year-long contract worth $1.4 million to advance defense security and critical mineral diplomacy with the US government. So far, Trump's only remarks on the DRC conflict have been him calling it a very serious problem. But will Trump's need for minerals draw his attention to the crisis? Now, for more on this, we have with us Lileti Maluleke, a security expert who is joining us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you for being with us, Lileti.
Thank you for having me.
Now, President Felix Tshisekedi's proposal ties access to the DRC's vast mineral wealth to the Western intervention in the ongoing conflict in the East. How realistic is this strategy, and what precedent, if any, exists for such a transactional approach to security and resource diplomacy?
Thank you. The issues Congo is dealing with are far removed from the concerns of President Trump. As we have seen previously, he has not mentioned much on the Congo, other than referring to it as a serious situation and a crisis. However, he has not shown any interest in the African continent and has even shown less interest in the Congo. So any relation, whether Tshisekedi refers to this as a strategic one, it will only favor the Trump administration. We have seen the Trump administration being very assertive, overly transactional. So that is what is expected within the Congo. What we will expect to see from now on is that the policies that Congo will have in future will be heavily influenced by policies from the Republicans and the Trump administration. What Tshisekedi needs to be very careful about is that he should not have a lot of Western intervention and influence. The DRC has a long history with the West. We have seen this during the Mobutu's reign when the West was very involved, and this also contributed to the conflict that we have. We have also seen the West have relationships with Rwanda, who is actually backing M23. So if we want to see something that is progressive for Congo, I think Tshisekedi needs to be very careful of not allowing the US have too much power and try to balance the interests of both the US and the parties that are already involved in the Congo.
Right. And given past instances where Western involvement in African conflicts has had mixed results, what kind of intervention would be effective in stabilizing the Eastern DRC? And what risks does Kinshasa face if the promised security assistance does not materialize as expected?
The Congo definitely needs an effective peacekeeping intervention that will not lead to prolonged instability like we have seen. In the past, there have been dialogues that have been held in Congo to resolve the situation. However, it has not involved all parties in the country. We have seen Tshisekedi speak against the M23 and refuse to have dialogue with the M23, which I think is an opinion and rather a situation that he needs to rather engage more in. We cannot have civilians, citizens, local parties, NGOs, and other civil societies not involved. We need to have a less involved Western power. We do not need regional actors being more actively involved. We require member states of SADC, for example, of the East African community to both be on the same page and also be politically willing to act against this issue. I think we should put away member states' interest at this point and see what works for the Congo right now. Because if we do not find an effective peacekeeping mechanism, for example, we might see Tshisekedi's reign being recognized as illegitimate or rather undermined or perceived as a failure. As we have seen with Kabila, as we have seen with Mobutu, a lot of the rebels have considered him an illegitimate leader. And this is because he was not involving the predecessors were not involving local parties in the dialogues, and these undermined their legitimacy. So what we need is an effective intervention that will not only require military operations, but also diplomatic operations and economic measures that will ensure that all local parties in the Congo are heard and they are understood.
Right. Lelesi, thank you very much for being with us on First Post Africa and for your valued analysis and insights there.
Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup. Hi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on First Post. One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
As India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year, more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. We also have civilian nuclear programs, and that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. So we want to work together on AI.
And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model, and then they recalibrated it.
So are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from.